Well, Time Warner stock chart shows you that Wall Street is not very impressed with the changes at this media giant. When you look at the company, the stock's down, what, 2% for the year, and a big fall after the recent earnings announcement. But there are significant changes going on at this company. If you thought you knew what Time Warner was 3 or 4 years ago, let alone 5 or 10, well, Time Warner is a shadow of its former self. And that could be a good thing. If you look at the revenues for the company, of course, they're a lot less since they've sold off AOL, since they've sold off the cable networks and a lot of other stuff. But what's interesting about this company is that profitability is on the mend. The operating margins for this company, that's the profits of the company, the profit margins of the company, before a lot of junk's added, have been going up and going up and going up, even as those divisions have sold off, even throughout the recession and the recovery. You see the strength of earnings power at this company getting a lot stronger. And that really shows you what Jeff Bewkes has been doing at this company, because more than any other CEO at Time Warner since the merger back in '89, of Steve Ross, Jerry Levin, who just saw in that last package of John's, Dick Parsons, Jeff Bewkes has really put his stamp on this company. And Bewkes has really made that stamp, that focus on content empowered by technological change. He thinks it offers Time Warner the keys to success. Now, earlier today, I sat down with Bewkes himself. Here's what he had to say about content versus distribution.
Our distribution company, which was the cable company, is a very valuable and pretty competitive company. And if you look at what's happened to Time Warner Cable, it's done very well once we separated. But what we have now at Time Warner is, whether it's the movie company at Warner's, the network companies at Turner HBO, or the world's biggest publishing company, we have the #1 competitor in those fields. And so the creation of content for television, magazines, or theaters is something that our people know how to do. And we thought we ought to focus on what we know.
Well, why is content a better business than distribution?
Well, there's always this debate of which one is better. They ask it, is content king or something like that. Both of them can be great businesses if you capitalize them the right way. And so if you're a leading content company and you look, as Time Warner does, at a world where people are using more content, what's happening to content through the digital revolution is that people are able to use the content they love the way they want to use it. There's more and more consumer choice and control over what you want to do with your content. So if you look at television, you can now get your favorite shows or your favorite networks on demand. The best example, the first to do it, is HBO. You can watch your favorite HBO show wherever you want and on whatever device that you want to watch it on. So that makes, if you love Entourage, if you love Boardwalk Empire, that makes it more useful to you because you can see it when you want, you can catch up, you can watch it again. All of this at no extra charge. So you take content that people really know and they know how they want to use it, and you put it more in their hands. And if you look at the same question in movies, you can now, as we all know, we've gotten used to being able, in the old days you had to go to the movie theater, then you could get it on a DVD. Now you can get your movie on your iPad. You can get it on basically any device. You can watch it whenever you want. You can store it up in the cloud. And as these things become easier, and let's remember also, as the quality rendering of the screen, if you have high definition or eventually 3D, you're increasing choice, you're increasing quality of content that people already know is good and what they like.
So let me ask you then, is Netflix a content company or a distribution company, and is that a business you'd like to be in all by yourself?
I think Netflix is a content company, and it's
really?
A business that we're all, yeah, absolutely, because they don't convey, if you're watching a movie or a television show over a subscription service, and the biggest subscription service is HBO. Actually, the biggest subscription service of all, almost every home in America has this subscription service. It's called television. So if you're listening to this, and if you have Fox News, CNN, MTV, FX, Discovery, NBC in your house, you're probably subscribing to a video package of cable, from a cable operator, a satellite company, or a telephone company. You may also be getting broadband connections from that company, but the biggest subscription in the United States, in fact, in every country in the world, is the television subscription. And what's happening, whether you look at it as one channel or many channels, all of those channels and programming are becoming available on demand. Now, if you take the HBO content channel, which is the world's first subscription video on demand channel, it's available to you and 30-some-odd million fellow Americans. It's available all over the world. We have close to 100 million HBO subscribers all over Latin America, Eastern Europe, and Asia.
I was surprised, frankly, when I looked up the numbers, 39 million U.S. subscribers. Netflix has just, for HBO alone, Netflix has just 25 million. I can understand your comments about the Albanian army when you look at it in that perspective.
Well, you're asking about if you Netflix or Amazon or any of the new subscription services, there's a good role for them, because if you want to have an access to a deep library of content, whether it's, you know, movie titles, television titles, many of which are kind of the niche titles that are older, it's perfectly you know, good that somebody's put together a good subscription service. Netflix has done that with a good interface where you can get at those shows.
Yeah, I mean, are you going to keep some content exclusive to, for example, the HBO Go platform?
Well, yeah, of course. If you take really valuable content, let's take HBO. Think of Boardwalk Empire, True Blood, etc. These are really successful shows at HBO with a huge and loyal audience following. If you're a subscriber to HBO, you get that show. So that's what you get, and you get it free on demand, and you get it on all these devices. So that's all working great. We don't license our HBO shows like Game of Thrones to Showtime. We don't license them to another subscription service, because if you've already subscribed to HBO, why would we put it on another service? It's wonderful that you have tablets, whether it's the iPad, which is a great tablet, as we all know, and all the other tablets that are coming, all the laptops, all the advances in smaller handheld devices. All of them can play television networks, television shows, movies, and you can read and watch magazines. So all digital devices are fantastic new enablers, entrants to make our viewers and readers have more access and more control over the content that they've already paid for. We haven't talked about magazines. I'll leave it to you to ask about it, but it's really the same thing.
Well, all right, there's my window. I mean, I'll ask you the 20-year-old question, but, you know, I started my career at Time Inc. I was a writer-reporter for People magazine. Even back then, the question was, why does the magazine business make sense in larger Time Warner? And particularly now, when the cash flows provided by magazines aren't as important because you don't have the cable system, why does the magazine business make sense, and how long will that be a part of Time Warner?
Well, the magazine business, if you have the world's leading magazine publisher, which we operate, it makes a lot of sense. If you look at both the readership of magazines, which is held up, if you look at the new form of the magazines, and if you're thinking about that, go to Time, People, Sports Illustrated, on any laptop or tablet, push the button, and if you're a subscriber to those magazines, you're going to have that magazine light up your digital device. And you're going to see a really robust rendering of what, of course, is a very successful
I get how it works, but why financially does it make as much sense as it used to?
Well, because it makes money. It has high profit. It has a high cash flow. Has pretty high return on investment. Coming back, you know, there was a decline a couple of years ago when the ad market went down. But that's the recession. If you build from where you are, meaning our earnings, I think we're the only magazine company that actually made money last year, in the year where the recession hit. And we're building quite nicely off of that new base. And we see as the digital forms come in, you're going to have enhanced readership, enhanced advertising performance. Because now a magazine ad, if you think of a moving picture ad or a targeted ad on a tablet, can be much more valuable than when you printed it in a static page and sent out the same issue to every household. So there's a plenty of opportunity
about that advertising market. I mean, Don Logan, time inker, great time inker, told me once that advertising is the canary in the coal mine for the economy. What do you see right now in the magazine advertising business? How has that performance perhaps changed in the last, let's call it 12 weeks?
Well, the ad market in TV has been very strong this year. The ad market in magazines was growing and rebounding, but not as strong as TV, which shows the continued demand for television. But it was still growing reasonably well in the publishing business. In the last month or so, there's been a softening as the economic news came in, because advertisers it's not clear what they're going to do. They may hold back a little bit to see whether they want to modify their spending in the face of weaker demand. So that's really the question. It hasn't turned into a decline. It isn't growing as strongly in the heading towards the fall as it was in the spring.
Interesting. All right. Jeff Bewkes, we're out of time, but I really want to thank you for coming on the show.
Cory, keep watching. That's the key. Keep watching.
That's a television cliche, though. I can't say that on the air.
I'll say it. Keep watching
Great,
your favorite network, your favorite movie.